What is going on, everyone? My name is Vincent, and today in this video we're going to be freshening up the Miata transmission. Alright, to get started, here's what I'm actually going to be replacing today. This is the clutch fork boot, the output seal, the input seal, and a paper gasket right here. Alright, so before I actually get to replacing any seals, I want to take this, clean this thing inside and out. I'm going to give it a quick rinse as well as some degreaser, but first we're going to take out the clutch fork as well as the throttle bearing. Alright, and to take those out, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is pull this pin up here as well as this pin right here, and then pull it back, and these two pieces should come out easily. So as I said, pull this pin here and here, pull it outwards, and then pull this assembly back, and it should slide out just like that, and just gently work it out like that. So the way this works is there is a pivot ball over here, and this clip opens and closes and holds it right in place like that. Alright, next let's get this boot out. All you have to do is just fold it along the edge like this and pull it out through the other side. Try not to damage it if you're not replacing it. All you have to do is just, it's that easy. Alright, so I've got those off now, and then now we're going to spray it down with some degreaser and wash it down with a hose. But first I'm going to drag it outside. Alright, I kind of forgot to say this before, but when you're working with clutch or brakes, the dust that they give off is actually toxic. So try to wear a mask when you're working on it. In my case, it's kind of hard to see, but there's oil that's flung everywhere from the leak that I had. It's caked all of the dust down, but I'm still going to be wearing a mask just for my own safety. Alright, so I've got some simple green. We're just going to spray all of this down right here. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for 10 to 15 minutes to let the degreaser work its way in there, and we'll be back in a second. Alright, so I've decided I'm actually going to clean the outside as well, and I've covered up any electrical connections with duct tape. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I hope it does a little bit of protecting it. I also covered up the speed sensor with duct tape as well. Alright, so I've cleaned the inside and the outside, and right now is actually a good time to check this part right here. This is where the throttle bearing goes. It's good to just feel around to see if there's any scratches or divots on it. And it's also a good time to check the input shaft to see if there's any play. Mine has a tiny bit of play, but I don't really expect too much from a 25-year-old transmission. Alright, so I went ahead and cleaned the clutch fork as well. And I just wiped it down with some degreaser and took this clip out. It's not that hard to take out. All you have to do is basically just bend it in like that. Get the other side and pull it out. And to put it back in, it's just the same thing, but in reverse. There you go. Alright, so the transmission is clean and dry, and I'm going to start off by taking off 6 12mm bolts that hold on the input cover. Alright, so now all the bolts are off, and if I'm lucky, this should pull off. Just carefully slide that off. Alright, let's grab some towels really quick. Alright, so I've got the front cover off, and make sure we do not lose this little spacer right here. This is very important. It could be stuck on this, it could be stuck on that. Do not lose it, and make sure you put it back when you put this all together. Alright, so we're going to give it a shot to see if we could pull this right off. And looks like it's going well so far. There we go. This is the old gasket. Alright, so you'll want to start off by cleaning this gasket surface here, and be sure not to scratch it, because if you do, you might have a leak, it might cause some problems. So just be gentle with this and use some brake cleaner and the rag. Just try to get everything off. Alright, for the most part I've got everything off. The rest that you see there are just stains. As long as it's smooth, it should be fine. So I went ahead and cleaned the surface as well, and I took out the spacer and cleaned it very gently. So now we're going to take out this seal right here. Apparently this seal has a lot of problems coming out, and I've heard people use a torch to burn it out, but I'm going to give it a shot with a seal pick first. So when you're using a seal pick, you really want to be careful not to scratch any of the inside surfaces, because that's going to cause a leak. Okay, so none of the seal picks worked or the trim removing tools, so I'm going to go with the blowtorch method. There we go. Here's the old seal. we actually managed to get all of it out, and here is the new seal. So here's what you want to do. You want to get some gear oil and put it along the outer edge of the seal, just like this. Alright, so I managed to push most of the seal with my fingers, but I think it has to go in even further. So what I'm going to do is grab the old seal, and I also have this weird 3/4 inch to 1 inch adapter. So I'm going to place that on top, and then I'm going to hammer it down. So I got the rest of the seal pushed in all the way. So let's get to installing this thing. So I found a good way to get Loctite off of a bolt. You can just pour some acetone on it, and then just wrap it in a rag, use your fingernail, and run through each of the threads. It comes out nice and clean. Alright, so what you want to do is put a really thin layer of RTV just to keep the gasket in place. And also put a little bit of gear oil just to keep the spacer in place as well. Alright, let's get this thing on. There we go. Okay, so I've got the bolts with the thread locker on them. Let's get them installed. Alright, so these bolts are torqued to around 14 to 18 foot-pounds, so I'm going to go right in the middle and go to 16. Alright, so after you torque them down, you want to install your throttle bearing, your boot, and your fork. But before we do that, we're going to want to grease this with a tiny bit of bearing grease. You don't want to put too much because what could happen is when you run this thing, it's going to spit the grease around and get all over your clutch. So you want to be really minimal with this. You can put more grease on this because this is not a spinning member, it's just simply to pivot. It's also a good idea to get some grease inside here and along the wear points of the fork. Alright, so let's get the boot in. Alright, so after you've got the boot in, here's the tricky part. You want to slide this in there just like that, and then slowly just work its way into there. You kind of have to play around with the boot and everything else at the same time. And then that just clicks into place. So the front seal is now done. Let's get started on the rear seal. So you want to get a screwdriver behind it and a hammer and just lightly tap it and make a circle around it just to work its way out. Alright, that's it. Now your seal is out. Now you want to clean inside, and you can use a Q-tip and some brake cleaner and just try to get everything off. So I've cleaned the inside of that, and here is the new seal. So when you're installing this seal, you have to be careful you put it the right way because it's hard to see on camera, but there's actually a part that says up and a part that says down. Also, when you're installing this, it doesn't hurt to put a tiny bit of RTV along the edge over here. So when you're installing this, as I said, you want to make sure it's in the right orientation, and you just push that in, get it set right there, and then get a hammer and push one side down while lightly tapping in the other side, and make sure it goes around flush. Alright, as you can see, that's now flush. Just hammer it down all the way. Just be careful with it not to break it or bend it. Anyways, after you got the rear seal in, that's everything you gotta do to replace the seals of a Miata transmission. that is gonna be it for this video. And in my next video, I'm gonna be changing the clutch, so stay tuned. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.